Having seen about that how we can run a VS from a VS Code, the smart contract using Truffle, Ganache, and how we can deploy it using a front end, using a file of JavaScript, that how it can be executed and how values can be put into the contract. Let's see the working at the back end, what is happening at the Ganche end, how these transactions are being reflected. So let's see this thing and explore this thing in much more detail. So this is the same program which is there, the contract. You can see this one.solve file, the same contract, it is there. What we'll do is quickly we will again deploy it, again build it, just for the sake of remembering. So the first step is build contracts, the contracts get built. Okay, so let's wait for it. Required app is not installed. Please install the required source code Truffle for VS Code. Required apps. Installation setup issue. It is something which is coming. I don't think why it is coming, but it is finished compiling and the contract has been compiled. Now, after compiling, this config is already there. So let's deploy the contract, and in deploy the contract, we can use anything. So let us take local development from truffle config.js, and it is deploying the contract. And it says static migrations, network ID, local development, one underscore deploy.js. This file is already there in the migration. In each video, I am trying to tell certain more things to you. So this is the transaction hash which has taken place, the commands which has been executed, and this is the new contract address. In the previous video, when the error came, what was the mistake? We pasted the address of the execution file, that is the externally owned address, the Ganche address we pasted. We have to paste this contract address. So let's save this contract address, and where we have to paste it, we have to paste it in this interact.js. So we paste it in this interact.js, and this time it has been pasted, and we delete the old address. So this old address needs to be deleted very carefully. It has been deleted. So we have done the changes in this interact.js. So having done all this thing, now we have to interact with this front end and see what is happening at the Ganche. So let's open Ganche before, and we see that this one count of transaction, and we can see that in this transaction, this contract has been built. So this we have already seen before. So let's come back to the VS Code and let us slowly understand what is happening in this interact file. The very first file is that it require a web3. So we have already installed web3 in my contract. It require this my contract.json file, which is there in the contracts folders under build. So if we see this build, you can see in this contracts folder, this is my contract.json file, which is created when we build the contract. And if you go through this JSON file, you will be able to know more about this, that this is the contract name, this is the ABI which has been created, which is my contract.abi, the input type, the set value, the output type, which is all of uninside integer, the bytecode which has been generated. So it generates the JSON file which contains all the details. You can learn from this JSON file, at least you can go through it. This was the migration folder, and in this migration, this was where we migrated the contract. So we just write the name of the contract, my contract, and it is deployed in the network as we choose in the deploy network. So now again control tilt, and we run this interact.js file. For the first time we are running after closing it, so it shows initial value 0 and the new value 8. We open this interact.js file, and you can see that we have set value 8. Now what is happening at the Ganche end? Let's see this thing also. Now see, the transaction count has reached to 2 because we have run a transaction from the front end. We are dealing with the blockchain now using this JS file that we are setting a value. If we see the transactions, you can see that now a new transaction has taken place. First was contract creation, and now this contract was called. Who called it? This address from the Ganche. And who was called? The contract was called. And what happened in this transaction when it was called? Certain gas was used and certain things was done, and a second block was mined in block 2. Let us go back to VS Code, and this time let's set a value 18. We are giving a new value 18, and we again run this interact file. So what happens? It says that the initial value was 8 and new value is 18. So we are doing the changes at the blockchain side from this front end. So let's see again what is happening at Ganche. Now the transactions becomes 3. So 3 transactions have executed. We go back to transactions, and again we can see that a new contract call has been there. We click on this thing and gas call, certain gas has been used, and this transaction is being mined in block 3. So similarly, we can execute more and more transactions, and we can come to know what changes are being done. So looking at all these things, it gives us view. It tells us that how VS Code is useful and what is happening at the front end, how we can link between this front end and the back end. So having seen all these things, now you can build your own program. You can use this code. I'll be posting this code on my website, which is mayankagr.in. You can download the code file from mayankagr.in. Thank you.